Yes, hello tradies. It is season 3, episode 16. We are brought to you by the great people at St Andrews Beach Brewery, their new brewery at Melbourne Park. The only place to be before a game at the G. You can also go there to watch games that aren't at the G, like the potential massacre on Thursday night between the Blues and Port Adelaide, as I welcome my esteemed co-host. Hello, Mitch.
Hello, Sam. Carlton, Port Adelaide on Thursday night. Is it?
Are you going?
I am.
Oh, fantastic. Great news for tradies. You'll be there.
I'll be there in the thick of it.
You'll be there for the Michael Voss press conference. There's been a bit of tension between you two.
Do you reckon?
Oh, yeah, definitely. You must have done something. He definitely doesn't like you.
I don't think I'm on his Christmas card list.
I wonder who is. It's going to be an interesting list for the rest of the year. Hey, before we get into trade talk, congratulations on your debut.
On Agenda Setters?
Yes.
I've been on before.
Oh, no, but not on the panel.
No, I was on the desk last night.
Not for the full show.
Yep.
We had it on last night around the footy classified meeting table.
I thought you would. You normally do.
Well, it's just good practice.
Yep.
To work out, what the opposition has done. And not only did you make your debut, but it's not as though you sort of green vested it and, had 6 touches and then maybe in the team for next week. You broke a story off the top.
What did you think? So for those that missed it, John Longmire, last year's grand final, was mic'd up as part of the afl.com.au production. Both coaches are wide up. In the last few years, Chris Fagan and Luke Beveridge's comms from losing grand finals have made it to the final cut, but John Longmire took the SD card and didn't give the AFL the chance to even spool through it.
Oh, if only we all had the power to sometimes just take the recordings with us. Very interesting and a good show. I liked you on the desk. Where's Hutchie?
He's away, I think. Yeah. Well, he's not like he's sick or anything.
Really?
No.
Where?
I don't know.
Where is he?
I don't tend to track Hutchie's movements.
How long's he away for?
A week or two.
Was it a week or is it 2? Are you back on the desk next week?
I have been asked what my movements are for the next week or so.
Oh, boy. Oh, we found a new panellist. Wow. Oh, the Herald Sun will have a field day with that.
Speaking of shows last night, I did consume a bit of your show after I got home.
Most people do.
Had a post-show drink. Just, I was invited upstairs to have a drink. Normally when I come in for
Is it upstairs or is it just...
No, it's upstairs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Been a while since I've been in the SEN offices.
Likewise.
Yeah, true.
It was the first time I'd been back for a while.
Yeah, good point.
And I heard this when you were talking about Noah Bolter.
The interrupted nature of when he can and can't play. Like, it was always going to be tough for him to come in and be the potential A-grader that we thought he could be.
So we've got the whiteboard. You've been calling for a North Melbourne missed targets whiteboard.
Yeah. Unfortunately, Officeworks have got back to us. They don't have the space. They don't own a whiteboard that's big enough.
You've been asking for a Tassie whiteboard, and now we need a potential A-graders whiteboard. How big is this thing going to be? So you've got Noah Bolter as a potential A-grader. So you've introduced this vernacular to the footy landscape.
I honestly just dropped it in for Tradies fans, to be honest.
Noah Bolter, of all the people you've scorned at me over, and you've linked him to the A-graders.
Yes, I mean, it's just wrong.
Yeah,
I immediately recant. I just wanted to drop in A-graders.
Okay.
By the way, is it just me, or has the A-graders never been mentioned more?
Is it that, or we're just looking out for it?
Well, it might be a bit like that. It might be.
I read Pete Ryan's piece in The Age this morning. Bruce Matheson, the Carlton power broker.
Former Carlton power broker, yeah.
Well, he's still got links.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I guess.
Talking about the 25 and unders, which I want to delve into a little bit later in the show when we get to Carlton, because I'm sure you've got a bit to get through with the Blues as well.
I have a lot to get through.
Before that, though, we like to go inside the media landscape sometimes here on Tradies and really get to the truth of what's happening. I did read a headline during the week. In McClure.
Oh, no.
Out Jones, Tony Jones, for the Wimbledon coverage on 9. So not only do we have a WhatsApp group, I see you, we see each other at the footy, I have to learn that you're on the Wimbledon coverage via the paper rather than you telling us.
I'm not going to announce it.
No, you could have told your mates here at Tradies.
don't think I told anyone. I'm not.
So you're on the Channel 9 cover. When are your flights booked?
No, so this is the
Are you going to leave us in the dark?
I'm not. Far be it for someone like me to criticise a media beat up, but it's got. So I'm hosting from Melbourne, from here.
Yeah.
With Elena Dokic at the desk,
Right.
crossing to Todd Woodbridge, who will be over there.
It's a bit like your Olympics style. You must have made
Yeah.
a good impression during the Olympics.
But TJ's got nothing to do with it. But
he was on last year's coverage
but he was doing news.
Yeah.
So he was hosting sports news
from London.
from London, which he always did.
But this year, that's not happening.
Yeah, but that's got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
So there's this whole rivalry that's been beaten up between TJ and myself is just it doesn't exist.
Okay.
I'm replacing Ros Kelly, who's left Channel 9. She would usually host from the desk in Melbourne. She'd come from Sydney, where she used to live,
Yeah.
and do it with Elena. But she's moving back to South Africa with her husband, Morne Morkel,
Yep.
and their children. And so I'm replacing her. I'm not replacing Tony. They're two different departments. One's
Yep.
sport and one's news.
Yeah. Okay. No, thanks for clearing that up.
So for anyone writing about it,
So you're going to arrive
talking
here
about it,
on Tuesday mornings for tradies a bit bleary-eyed during those couple of weeks?
I actually hadn't even thought about that. But yes, it'll be a no sleep job, I would think.
So is it classified into Wimbledon coverage? You're going to be a busy boy.
I think the 2 Mondays, someone else will be doing the tennis.
Doing the okay.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not abandoning the team.
Yeah.
We stick with footy classifieds on a ratings winner.
I read something last week that Agenda Setters had a good week.
I think you had a good week. And
Yeah.
still lost.
No, not what I read, but
Mitch,
I
I
don't
have
delve into it too much.
but I do. I have the numbers.
Yeah.
I'm happy to go into the numbers with anyone who is willing to listen. So I just go by the actual facts. I don't try to manipulate it based on whether it's national or whether it's Melbourne or whether it's on the app. There's just a number,
Right.
and the number that is higher is usually the number that wins.
Is that how it works?
Yep.
No, I just read something last week that Agenda Setters was on a winner. So
So where'd you read that?
it was online somewhere. I can't
Yeah.
remember.
Which network was it?
I can't remember.
Which network was it? You would remember. You remember all these things. Who wrote it?
I do remember these.
Who was it?
SEN.
Okay. And who owns SEN?
The power.
Who owns SEN?
Power broker.
Who owns SEN?
Craig Hutchison.
Thank you. That's all. Moving on.
He's on the Agenda Setters panel, but wasn't on last night.
It wasn't last night.
Let's see if it's written.
It's been replaced by Mitch
Let's see what the
Cleary.
numbers are like.
Oh my goodness. If Scotty, wow, this could be the first time we actually on our socials print ratings. If the ratings for Agenda Setters are up
Chris
on
Fagan was very
Mitch's
good.
debut,
Chris
there's
Fagan-
something to that.
Chris Fagan, in all honesty, I'm not just saying this. Chris Fagan was the best coach chat I've seen on one of those shows for a while. He was.
I missed it. I was recording promos.
Oh, you're still in the promos?
What do you mean?
I thought, you went hard on the promos and they weaved a bit more Eddie in, and then you still.
Now, I know that you guys don't do this because Seven Mate's a little harder to find, but when we're on the main channel, we actually promote the show and it runs. So I record them about 7 o'clock.
Plenty of promotion for Agenda
before we go
Setters.
live at 8:30 on the main channel.
Plenty of
On
cut through.
on the main channel.
Plenty of cut through on Agenda Setters through 7 News. Anyway,
Jeez, we've talked some smack this morning. There's a couple of big stories that I think are going to explode. It's going to be a big trade period. Where should we start? Well, it has to be the Blues, doesn't it?
well, what about Matt Rowell?
Oh, your man. Yeah, sure.
So he's still on the whiteboard. He's not coming off yet because he's yet to put pen to paper.
This is a spicy start.
So, again, I heard you last night querying where this one is at. So I'll give you where I believe it's at, and then we can get your response. So last week, Tom Petro, the manager of Matt Rowell, flew to Gold Coast on Thursday. It was an in-and-out mission. Sat down with
Mitch on airport watches.
Matt Rowell. Now, I don't know where it was, and I'm keen to find out what they ate, but they sat down for a couple of hours and thrashed out.
Burley Pap?
Is that open on a Thursday, Arvo?
Oh, I think it's open all the time.
More of a Friday, Saturday sort of job, isn't it? Sunday, Arvo?
Could be. Yeah, anyway, go on.
And they thrashed out his decision. I think Matt has been torn on the relationships that he created with the clubs over the off-season in letting them down. So I think it was very hard. No, like you sit down with these guys, they stay in contact throughout the year. You know, I'm sure the coaches and captains of those clubs have remained, well, I know that they've remained in contact with Matt throughout the season. So he's struck up a bit of a bond with clubs. You know, Collingwood and the Dogs were probably the two. Collingwood, I felt, was always the one, if he was to leave the Suns, where he would land and request a trade to, if it got to that. So Petro flies up. This is a week after the bye because Rao went away with his mates during the bye. Then on Friday, Rao tells the Suns he plans to stay and wants to commit. At this point, they're still yet to talk money. There's no financial terms being thrashed out, but all parties now working towards a 2-year extension with Gold Coast. Petro rings the Pies, Dogs, Cats and Bombers, the clubs that he met with in the off-season, and said, hey, looks like we're going to stay, so feel free to move on to other things. Then I think in the next week or two, they'll start to thrash out exact terms. So I know what you said last night, but I think it's pretty much of the view now that he's staying, even though he has yet to put pen to paper.
Yeah, I'm sure he's staying. Like, when I read something from Michael Gleeson, you know it's happening.
Yeah.
But it was just interesting when
he hasn't re-signed.
When I was checking in on the situation, so he hasn't actually signed yet.
Yeah. But it's a big step because he'd been tossing and turning for a while.
Is it, without sounding money obsessed, is it not weird that he's recommitting and then they talk money? Is it because, like, so for instance, the decoding situation is like, well, his situation is so impacted by money because the offers are so different, right? Which is completely normal. Like, for anyone going for a job, if the job titles were similar, but one was paying 50% more, they'd be like, oh, okay, shit, well, that's a consideration. But with Rao...
Yeah, it's like not like Tom Harley took the AFL job not knowing what he was going to be earning.
Yeah. So is it because all the offers would be relatively similar?
I think it's more that there's enough goodwill between Matt Rao and the Suns. He's not going to take them to the cleaners on a 2-year deal.
No, I understand goodwill, but it's still a business that's being run.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was just...
Everyone assures me in this that they're yet to talk financial terms.
And I've heard the same stuff, yeah. I was interested. Obviously, Matt Rao is someone that's not that largely impacted by money, and I tip my hat to him.
So their spin-off now comes on a couple of the guys we've got on whiteboards. So Warple, I think there's been clubs waiting for the Rao decision to see, because Warple's a rung below. Do the Cats ramp up the Warple? You say it's already done, but do they go harder there? The Dogs, given they had money set aside for Matt Rao, does that allow them to go a bit harder at Miles Bergman? Butters for 12 months' time, if not this year. So I think there's a few things will start to move now that...
Clary?
Yeah.
He's still on the whiteboard.
With Geelong?
They have to still be interested.
Do you think Geelong is the suitor if Clary moves?
Oh, I think they'd be on the podium. I think they'd be high up in the queue. I noticed you played the Andrew Mackie grab last night on Agenda Setters of the money that they have, and then I think you said on the show they've got $2 million. So no, you said they've got 2 players over 2 years they can bring in.
They feel like we spoke about last week. Geez, that got took a life of its own on TikTok and Instagram. The comments about the Cats cap room. Obviously, rival fans don't believe that's possible.
It's suspicious.
Well, like we discussed last week, they've only got 4 players on over $800,000.
It's suspicious. That's just all.
Anyway, I'm not here to defend the Cats.
Well, you defend them a lot.
No, I don't.
Well, between you and Scotty on Cats Enough Radio, it is. I do feel like you defend them. I'll defend them for you. Yeah, there you see.
We report cat stuff as hard as anyone.
Very interesting on Rao. Very interesting. Do we move on to the story of the week?
Yeah. So there's 2 games and percentage outside the 8 with 9 to play for a team, in their words, was set up for the top 4. They've spent their cap room. Their best players are all between the ages of 24 and 30. It's meant to be go time. I don't know how many more times. I'm sure our listeners are sick of me relaying this every single week. But this is a club that have gone and spent their money on Williams, Sard, Chera. It's meant to be now. This is not a developing football club. They're top 8 for experience and age. On the weekend, they had an experienced side out there despite the injuries, and every club's got injuries. Forget the Mackay and Walsh chat. This is a team that should be taking North Melbourne to the cleaners. They beat them by 12 goals.
80 points, yeah.
Yeah. Only 8 weeks ago.
So I just wanted to deal with a couple of list conversations first.
Yeah.
And then I think we have to address the elephant in the room, which is the coaching situation. So first, they played in a prelim 18 months ago.
Yep.
Now, I just want to list the players that didn't play. So the players that played in that prelim who didn't play on the weekend against North, because it's a pretty similar team. I think it was 16 of the same players.
Okay.
Here are the guys that didn't play. Cottrell, who is a role player and has been injured.
Was good in the prelim run that year.
Kennedy, who they decided to trade.
Yep. Top 10 in last year's BNF.
Marchbank, who, just desperately unlucky with injury, but you could never really rely on him.
Silvani's replacing him's been an upgrade.
Yep. Jack Martin, who they traded.
Yep.
Or the trade was he was a delisted free agent.
They delisted.
Yeah. But essentially they openly let him go.
They chose not to give him a contract.
Mackay, who's a big out.
Yep.
Walsh, who's a big out. And Newman, who's a decent out.
Yeah, top 3 in the last few BNFs.
So three good players that didn't play, but every club has injuries.
Have you got the names that replace them?
No, I haven't off the top of my head, but you're looking at the likes of
Haynes.
Binns, Haynes. I'd have to go through it. But the point is, Mitch, they were 5 goals up against a team who has been a force to be reckoned with in the last few years in Brisbane.
Yeah.
In that prelim. And 18 months later, with a team that is largely the same, granted a couple of injuries and guys that they decided to let go, they're losing to North. And not just losing to North, but like they conceded 8 goals in a row. They were the 11 points flattered and they basically got done by 8 goals.
I was at the local footy game on Saturday, and I've never just watching a match and people's phones lighting up like you've never seen before.
Yeah.
You do not understand what is happening at the MCG right now. I was watching a bit on the phone, just trying to stay across it. My word, like people, I can't remember a reaction like it.
Yep. So the team has just gotten worse, really, and I'm not sure anyone has been able to put their finger on why. Then moving on to the sort of list combined with coaching conversation, and that is, well, okay, Graham Wright's come in there and he's now looking at change is clearly needed. What lever do I pull, right? Because it's hard to change the list overnight, and they have been building towards this list for a long time, quite deliberately.
It was meant to be 2024, 2025, 2026.
Yeah, under 2 list managers. First, Stephen Silvani, who basically built the spine, and then Nick Austin, who's come in and added things. So if they don't do that, there has been this underlying conversation of do they do a Richmond of 2016 and basically replace everyone around Damien Hardwick, right? Give him new support with the same list and go. So I think I've talked about this maybe before on this pod, but the team that got belted by Sydney by 100 points in the last round of 2016.
The Richmond team?
Yeah. So it had Cochin, Hooley, Martin, Rance, Rewald. So stars there. We know that they went and added Lynch and Prestia, who ultimately ended up being guys that were sort of in the top 5 of their
team. Lynch didn't play in the 17 flag.
TPP. No, that's right.
When got Nank as well. He's a big one.
And Nankovs. But what's also forgotten about that Richmond team is that the bottom end that played were pretty average.
Yeah.
And I mean that respectfully. So
especially in terms of TPP, these next guys would have been on 180 less.
So Chol, Elton, Hampson, Taylor Hunt, Markov, Andrew Moore, Callum Moore.
None of them played in the flag.
No. Now, I would argue that the team that Carlton have at the moment is stronger than that Richmond team that ended 2016.
But those guys weren't playing though.
No, I understand that, but I'm saying even the top end.
Yeah.
Like, if you put Carlton's top 6 next to Cochin, Martin, Rance, Rewalt, Hooley,
yeah,
I reckon it looks pretty good.
Yeah, I agree.
So that's the conversation that Graham Wright probably has to have with himself is, okay, well, if the list is there, we either have to replace all the people around Michael Voss to give him the appropriate amount of support. Because I don't know if you remember this, but Brendan Gale, I think he said this publicly, but he certainly told the story many times about when he was conducting that kind of review throughout 2016. He'd go and ask everyone. He'd ask players, he'd ask assistant coaches, he'd ask development people. He'd just say, can he coach?
Yeah.
And the overwhelming thing was, well, yes, he can. Now, remember when Damien Hardwick came in at the end of 2009? Richmond had just won 5 games. They were towards the bottom of the ladder. They only won 6 games in his first year in 2010. And so this guy, basically from the bottom, a little bit like Chris Fagan at Brisbane, built and built and built and built. They played in 3 final series in a row in 14, 15, 16 and lost each time. And so they had been incrementally building towards success. Now, Michael Voss's journey at Carlton is different because when David Teague was moved on, the statement from Luke Sayers in the press release of Voss being hired was that we believe that we have a group that is capable of great things, and we believe that Michael is the man to unlock that. So it's not as though he was coming in to help build Carlton up. He basically came into Carlton
With the keys in the hand.
to play in and win premierships
Yep.
and grand finals. Now, yes, 23 was a good run, but they shot themselves in the foot earlier in the year. They haven't really put together a full season under Michael Voss. And so I think this is now the really difficult decision that the Carlton Football Club have to face. And it's made more difficult by the fact that a lot of their own problems have been, a lot of their wounds have been self-inflicted over the years. They've sacked coaches too early or at wrong times. Brett Ratton was probably the wrong decision, but they went and wanted to get Mick Moldhouse. Brendan Bolton, was he just the wrong hire or did they sack him too early? David Teague was clearly the wrong decision. But they've burnt through so many coaches. There's probably a thought at Carlton now, well, we can't sack another one. There's also the element, I think, that Michael Voss is a much loved human being inside that football club, by the players, by staff. You know, he has an aura around him, largely from his playing days, as a superstar triple premiership captain, right, that has the respect of so many people when he walks into a room. And I just hope it doesn't get to a point that, like, Carlton fans were so angry on Saturday. I was watching your news, like the Vox Pops from the MCG, the people crying in the stands, the people calling for him to be sacked. If it goes on for too much longer with heavy defeats like that, it reminds me of a movie that you said you haven't seen and that you need to.
I'm talking about the kind of city that idolizes a masked vigilante.
Gotham City is proud of an ordinary citizen standing up for what's right.
Gotham needs heroes like you, elected officials, not a man who thinks he is above the law.
Exactly. Who appointed the Batman?
We did. All of us who stood by and let scum take control of our city.
But this is a democracy, Harvey.
When their enemies were at the gates, the Romans would suspend democracy and appoint one man to protect the city. And it wasn't considered an honor, it was considered a public service.
Harvey, the last man that they appointed to protect the Republic was named Caesar, and he never gave up his power.
Okay, fine. You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
Now, it's a bit dramatic, but it did get me thinking
that's
when
deep.
I was at 12:30 rewatching The Dark Knight, which, by the way, just gives me
Do
chills.
you just get home and watch movies?
What else? What else is there to do?
Watch TV shows or scroll TikTok?
Imagine the hole I would find myself in if I just went back to scrolling through TikTok and Instagram after I got home from Footy Classified. Great movie. You need to see it.
Okay.
That, like, it's a little bit embarrassing that you haven't.
Just back to the bottom 6, I think my question to you is, how many players at Carlton this year have actually improved? And I can only find one in Jack Silvani.
Yeah, that's probably true. Just to cap off on this, because people are probably wondering why the fuck I brought up The Dark Knight with Michael Voss. But that quote from Harvey Dent, who plays the district attorney for Gotham, was, you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And Michael Voss has always been a hero in Brisbane days and in different parts of his Carlton coaching career. When they went on that run to the prelim, he was a hero.
Yep.
Right? But if these losses keep tallying up, and if they get to the end of the year and they re-sign him, like it will be very difficult.
Re-sign him?
Sorry. As in when I say re-sign him, don't sack him
Recommit
and let
to
him.
him.
Or no, let him go into his last year of his contract
Yeah.
because his contract at the end of next year. He's going to be made out to be the villain, which he's not here. Like it's not. This situation with Carlton is not all on him, but he is the senior coach, and the buck does stop with him. And speaking of bucks, I was researching last night because the whole Nathan Buckley situation in 2021. By the way, it's a great video of you and Damien Barrett from your AFL.com days. Would that be right?
Yeah.
21?
Yep.
Yeah. It was like Crisis at Collingwood, and you were doing like a live show. Anyway, it was very good.
Is that after Robbo's Zoom?
So Nathan Buckley was heading down that path, and there was a lot of anger towards him. Probably he was helped by his playing career at Collingwood. Like if he had his playing career at Brisbane but was at Collingwood, it may be a little bit different. But he ended up finding a way in the last year of his contract, despite the fact they were falling down the ladder, to go out with dignity and class in the end. And that was probably helped by, ironically, Graham Wright,
Yep.
who helped made the decision. But just to cap off on this, I think, and I have mentioned this a couple of times on this pod, whatever Carlton do in this situation, they have to commit to it. They have to decide what it is that they want to stand for. If you want to stand for treating people with dignity and respect, then do it. But if you want to stand for ruthlessness and winning flags, then do that as well, and don't apologise for it.
Yeah.
That's all. Anyway, back to your bottom six conversation.
So go back to that Richmond side. So you name the fringe guys. I want to talk about the actual premiership players. So Camden McIntosh, Jacob Townsend. This is 2017.
Yep.
Lambert became a star, but
Not a star, but he became a good
but
player.
then, yeah. Grigg, Jack Graham was young. Castagna, Nathan Broad.
All really
Dan
good
Butler.
role players.
So can Michael Voss get those role players to be performing on the big stage like Damien Hardwick was then? That's my question. And
Yep.
how many players this year at Carlton have actually improved? And just one more on the Voss conversation. He was never brought in as the tactical guru that's going to revolutionise the game plan. He's
Ash Hansen.
yeah. Voss was brought in as the aura guy, the guy that was going to set standards,
The motivator.
walk into the room,
Yep.
and send a shiver down people's spine and say, "All right, we're on this journey together.
Yep.
You do what I say."
Yep.
The technical stuff was meant to be the Ash Hansons, the assistant coaches around him. So the game plan stuff, yes, ultimately the buck stops with
Michael Voss.
But I think there's a few others there that need to be questioned about that, because Voss was never meant to be the tactical nous of that group.
Yep. Yep. It's interesting that you bring up you talk about the Richmond comparison, because think about the way that the Tigers played compared to Carlton. Like it couldn't be more the antithesis.
Yeah.
Richmond would just move it quickly and get it forward at all costs and find a way to score. Like you think about the chaos in which they move the ball. Carlton on the weekend against North Melbourne, for fuck's sake. Like backwards, sideways, keep possession, kick the ball long down the line. And
the irony too, Richmond actually changed their style a bit that year when they lost Ben Griffiths to injury, and they had to play with Jack Revolt as the one key and then Smalls around him.
You forget that.
Carlton have tried to address
Griffiths.
they've tried to address their ball movement at the break. It doesn't feel like it's improved at all. Over the break we've changed up our ball movement, we're slick on the track, all these sort of things you hear out of Carlton. So they've tried to change in season, and that's clearly not working.
Did I see Jay-Z link on the Herald Sun link Mackay with a trade to Sydney for Florent?
Yeah. I think they'd need to be a bit coming back Carlton's way if that
Been
was
a fall from grace. It was going to be Mackay for Petrarca, and now it's Mackay for a guy who can't get a game for the Swans.
Yeah, it is crazy to think you would have got 2 first rounders of Harry 12 months ago.
Well, they just would have got Petrarca.
Yeah, that's 2
no
first
one,
rounders.
No one wanted to tell Harry that they wanted to trade him. So here we are. Again, you just need to decide. Do you stand for ruthlessness or do you stand for nicey-nicey?
Is Petrarca what they needed?
Everyone needs Petrarca.
Yeah.
It's like saying, it's like in his prime, Cristiano Ronaldo was available. It's like, does anyone need a right winger? They're like, what the fuck? What are you talking about? Just go get him.
Of all clubs that need the big inside ball, I don't think Carlton is exactly that. But every club could, yes. Every club could do with
Christian
Petrarca.
Petrarca is more than just an inside ball, mate. He's dynamic.
He is.
He plays forward.
But he's not known for his
goals.
slick ball use. Like, look at Melbourne.
That's harsh.
He's not a slick ball.
Christian Petrarca, very good ball user.
I love Christian Petrarca. He's not a slick ball user. When Melbourne go forward, he's part of the reason why Melbourne's ball use and their inside 50 connection's always been an issue over the last 4 or 5 years.
I think that's more Oliver and Viney.
Yeah, but Petrarca's played a part in that.
Yeah, but I think that's interesting. That
What do you think
my
Carlton's
eyes
biggest?
tell me that he's a very good ball user.
What do you think Carlton's biggest? He's not a bad ball user. He's not an A grade ball user.
Oh, what was your question?
What are Carlton's biggest needs at the moment? You know, Dan Houston would be good in that side, but they couldn't do it last year. Dan wanted to join Carlton,
Yeah,
but they couldn't afford him, and they prioritised trading up in the draft for Jagger Smith.
yeah, you can keep Houston. They've got Sard.
Yeah, but he's not playing like the Sard of 3 years ago.
And why isn't he? Because they go backwards and sideways and stop.
Yeah, and he's got to lock
and-
down.
Yeah.
One other thing. So Bruce Matheson spoke about the 25 and unders this year at Carlton. So Sam Walsh is about to turn 25, so he took him out of the conversation. So this is players.
You take someone out of the conversation to help your own argument. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, well, we've all done that with stats and that sort of thing.
Yep.
So these are players born in 2001 or later,
All right.
right? And he mentioned that there's no A graders in that side at Carlton. I've reframed it a little bit to potential All Australians. So players in the top 9 sides that Carlton should be. I think the top 9 has set itself from the bottom 9 in the AFL right now. And this was never meant to be a conversation around Carlton this year. We were meant to be talking about their A graders at the top, the Williams, the Sards, the Cherras. These guys were meant to be taking them to finals this year. So it was never meant to be about the 24 and unders this year at Carlton. But now they're going so poorly, the next couple of years is going to be about the 24 and unders. So I think it's a relevant point to bring up.
All right. Give me your names.
So I'm going through the top 9 clubs right now at the Crows. These are potential All Australians. Riley Thilthorpe, Jake Saligo, Josh Rochelle, Max Michelini, Sid Draper, potentially as a top 10 pick, Dan Curtin. Now, but Carlton don't have these sort of guys. This is the point. Brisbane, Kyle Lohman, Darcy Wilmot, Jasper Fletcher, Will Ashcroft, Logan Morris, Levi Ashcroft. Collingwood, Nick Dacos stands on his own. Then you got Beau McCreary, who's just turned 24, and Ned Long, early, but,
Last two are not potential All-Australians.
McCreary as a small forward.
No.
Fremantle, Caleb Sarong, Hayden Young, Luke Jackson, Josh Tracy. And then I've got the maybes as Murphy
Brayshaw.
Reid, Jai Amos. I think Brayshaw's in the same age as Walsh.
Yeah, okay, yep,
so he's in that 25 and above. Geelong, Sam De Koning, Max Holmes, Lawson Humphreys, Ollie Dempsey. Gold Coast, Noah Anderson.
Do you have Bailey Smith in there?
He's older.
Is he? Okay. Yep.
Is he?
Yeah, no, he might be Walsh's draft.
He's Walsh's draft.
Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Sons, Anderson, who's already an A-grader. Oh, God. Matt Rowell, who I think already should be on your A-grade.
Can I just stop you for a second? I just want to declare, I love Noah Anderson. I love him. That's all. Moving on.
Matt Rowell, Mac Andrew, Bailey Humphrey, Jed Walter. And I got the maybes as Leo Lombard, Ethan Reid.
Jed Walter.
GWS, Tom Green, Lockie Ash, Finn Callahan, Aaron Cadman, Darcy Jones. Hawthorn, John Newcomb, Will Day, Massimo D'Ambrosio, Josh Weddle, Nick Watson, and maybes Cal Shadir if you can show what he did in his first year.
You can't, yeah, but he's been injured and
but
hasn't
Carlton
played.
don't have that. This is getting back to the comparison with Carlton.
Yeah, but they've traded most of their picks to get players in.
Yeah.
And they took Jagger
That's what
Smith.
Yeah, so he's the only one 24 and under right now
Yeah.
that's a potential All-Australian.
Okay.
So that wasn't meant to be an issue in 25, 26.
No,
But the fact they're going so poorly, you talk about do they need to blow up the Carlton list?
the list is fine.
That's what I'm.
Yeah, I agree with you. The list is fine.
And just to finish off, the Dogs, Sam Darcy, Cody Waitman, if his body ever returns to what it can be, he could be a 40-goal kicker a year, and then Jamara, which who knows what happens there. But my point, just finish. My point is, we weren't meant to be talking about Carlton's 24 and unders this year. It wasn't even meant to be part of the conversation because of their top end players and their middle tier like Williams, Sard, Chera, Silvani, these sort of guys. But now it's going to become a conversation because they're performing so poorly.
Yeah.
It's like, what is next with this Carlton list? And there's not much there.
Yeah, I think...
They don't have a first rounder right now. They'll get one for De Koning, but their first pick at this year's draft is currently 36.
Yep. I think it's a fascinating 9 weeks. Graham Wright's like the boy at the well. He's got a job ahead of him. Speaking of, you just mentioned the dogs. I want to add a couple to the whiteboard.
Okay.
But they're going in like the bottom right corner. They're a watch. And this is,
We've got an 8th whiteboard now we're adding to the a watch
I can
whiteboard.
do whatever I want with my whiteboard. So, hear me out, right? This is more opinion than anything. Okay?
So we're talking about the Dogs who just traded Daniel. They've just traded McRae. Bailey Smith left. They've got cap room. Jamara could be off the books in 6 months. What?
So, I'm just stick with me. How do you spell? Is it G-H?
Oh, gee. This feels like Tradies Ep 1, Season 1.
Why?
We spoke about these two names.
Yeah. So, I was watching the Dogs maul the Tigers on Sunday. Another rip snorter of a Sunday 3:20 game. Get ready for the air raid siren. Whew, long run.
Tough watching Sunday.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
Were you there, Scotty?
Yeah, a big weekend of football, and it ended with that, and I nearly fell asleep.
Billion-dollar sport. And the AFL are forcing Channel 7 to serve up that rubbish. Anyway.
Oh, it's all right. We'll just have the week off and we'll go not have any footy like you want.
That's what we should do.
People would rather watch that than no footy.
Cool. Yeah, I'd rather prick my eyes out with a needle. So Tim English and Aaron Norton are two players that really in 2023, Mitch, we were thinking about as premier players in the competition, like top echelon A graders, really.
And they're not on your whiteboard for
Oh,
the A-graders.
they're not even close.
Yeah, but 2 years ago, if you had said 2025, I'm going to do a whiteboard, who's on it?
they'd be put in there almost in permanent marker. So English was the All-Australian ruckman in 2023. Norton is a 2-time leading goal kicker. He kicked 59 goals in 2023. Right? They're just coming into the prime of their careers. English has just turned 27. Norton is 25. They're both WA boys. Norton actually born here in Frankston but moved to Rockingham in WA as a kid. His family's still there, and English is from played for South Freo as a junior. He's from is it Dansborough?
Dunsborough.
Dunsborough?
Yeah, hello to our WA listeners.
I love WA. I just need to get such a big chunk of land. You know, there's a lot to work out. Not like Tassie, where you sort of like Launceston and Hobart, and then that's it.
Bernie?
Bernie's lovely.
Devonport?
Steering clear of the Tassie Stadium conversation for a while. So we think that the AFL are going to give West Coast pick 2 for Oscar Allen, right? Let's just. I know. We both get very angry and upset. I know. I'm with you. I'm with you on the journey. But let's just say, for argument's sake, that they're going to get pick 2, and they're going to finish last, so they're going to have 1 and 2. Now, if I were the Western Bulldogs, these guys have re-signed. So English is there till 2029, Norton's there till 2032, both on big coin.
2032.
And I'm watching on the weekend, Mitch, and I'm thinking 2 things. Firstly, they don't really need Norton because Darcy might be the best player in the comp, right? Second,
You need to keep one of Norton or Jamara.
the second thing is there's just not that many ruckmen that you pay huge money to that end up working for you. Hello to Max Gawn. Outside of him, paying ruckmen over $1 million doesn't often work. And I'm just thinking to myself, I'm not saying it's going to happen. It's just a food for thought. If I'm the Western Bulldogs and West Coast have pick 1 and 2, and I've got these 2 blokes from Perth who I think I could do without, I'm trying to get 1 or both of those picks.
Yeah.
In some way, shape or form. Now,
Don't forget, West Coast had the chance to get English last year for nothing as a free agent.
I understand all that. If West Coast are thinking to themselves, if they get to the end of the year and Andrew McWalter's like, is it really that good a draft? I really need some senior players in to help me. We're losing Oscar Allen. Yes, he hasn't kicked goals for a while, but shit, he's a good target and he's a leader for us. I can replace him with an Aaron Norton straight away. Or I can get a ruckman in there to help my Harley Reids get more of the footy. I just think it's a conversation worth thinking about.
Yeah.
How do I get pick 1 or how do I get pick 2?
Yep. No, I think it's a valid conversation. I think West Coast need to get back to what we've been talking about because you're talking about them not being A graders. I think if West Coast are bringing in guys and using picks 1 and 2, they need to be going after A graders because we'll get into this conversation in 2 years' time. Oh, West Coast should have gone to the draft. They may well have pick 1 and 2.
Totally, and I've been as critical as anyone of them not going to the draft, right?
Go and get the best 2 kids.
I'm not telling them to go do this. This is more from a Western Bulldogs perspective. I'm saying I'd be aware of it.
Yeah.
But the West Coast conversation is really interesting as well because I think it's really hard when you're rebuilding a list to convince the young guns that you have that the journey is worth staying on. And I think that's going to be their biggest challenge with Harley Reid this time next year, assuming that he stays, right?
Do they get worse next year if Oscar Allen goes?
Well, I don't think it's a great question. I can't see them getting a whole lot better. So do they try to put senior bodies around them? Or we're saying we're staying the course here. We're taking the best 2 kids in the country and you hope that they show enough in their first year to show someone like a Harley Reid that it's worth sticking around. Because it just ends up being a disaster if you take 1 and 2 and then at the end of that year, Reid leaves, you get 2 or 3 first-round draft picks and then it sort of just elongates it again.
Yeah.
Anyway, it was just a thought.
Yep.
It was a whiteboard food for thought.
Yep. I'm adding one to my actual whiteboard.
Oh.
Riley O'Brien, who is free agent
boy.
at the Crows right now, stuck in limbo because he's waiting to see what the Crows bring in.
How old is Riley O'Brien?
Have a guess.
Well, it feels like he's been around for 20 years. He must be 30.
He's not yet 30.
Is he?
He turns 30 in August.
He's 29. Interesting.
Been pretty durable.
Yeah, very. How many games has Riley O'Brien played?
Have a guess. Got dropped last year.
Yeah. I think Riley O'Brien has played 179 games.
135.
He's played less than I thought.
Yeah.
So he's only averaging 13 games a year.
So he debuted in 2016.
Was he a mature age? Was he straight out of the draft?
He debuted as a 21-year-old in 2016.
He debuted as a 21-year-old. Okay, so was he on the list for 3 years or did he get picked up late?
Shit, I didn't realise this is your life for Riley O'Brien, but
I'm enjoying the game though.
Yeah, let's have a look. So born in 95, drafted as a rookie in 2014. So yeah, he was brought in as a 19-year-old.
Rookie, okay. There you go. Oh, it's a pretty good result for a rookie.
Debuted in 16, didn't play in 17 or 18. Who was the ruckman in that 17? Oh, Sam Jacobs. So he's behind Sam Jacobs. Yeah. This is live podcasting, by the way. This is us just going through the motion.
Really enjoying it.
So he's waiting to see what they do with Draper. So if Draper comes, he won't stay.
Doesn't sound like Draper's going there.
Where do you think he's going?
Brisbane.
You think Brisbane? Yeah, right. So Cal Toomey's reported that a few weeks ago, but that's picking up, you think?
I think so.
Yeah, right.
Sounds like it.
Okay. You just decided to wait 40 minutes into the podcast to bring us that news?
Why would he go to Brisbane?
Why would he go to Brisbane?
Why would he go to Brisbane?
Win-
I think people
win
would be
premierships?
asking that. Yeah, I understand that, but people would be asking. They've got the big O there.
So Chris
Big
Fagan on
O's
Agenda
probably
said
just about to fall off the cliff, though, isn't he?
You reckon?
it's interesting. So Fagan
Feels like
last
it.
night said that Oscar McInerney has a degenerative back injury. So it's a bit worse than we sort of thought. That was a fair admission from Fagan.
Yeah, okay. So that sort of adds to my theory that
Yeah.
he's just about to...
They're going to need a ruckman at Brisbane because Darcy Fort's 32. Will
Yeah.
turn 32 this year.
It's just smart for the Lions.
But is it a risk, though, if you're bringing Oscar Allen and Sam Draper in with questionable bodies?
I think they have the record of turning injured blokes around. They did it with Danaher. They did it with Lincoln McCarthy to a
Yeah.
degree.
Tom Duday would be a cautionary tale, though.
That's true.
Bringing him off the ACL,
There's no
did another ACL.
There's no guarantees, but I just think I'm such a big tick for what Brisbane have been able to do with their list build. I just feel like I just have the ultimate trust that they're making the right calls.
So with Brisbane's young players and the quality on that list and the top-end premiership players they've got to pay,
Yep.
everyone questions how did Geelong fit 2 stars into the next 2 years? How did Brisbane fit Oscar Allen and Sam Draper in?
Would Geelong get extra money from...
I don't want to make this a Geelong thing, but you know what I mean? Like, I'm just using that as an example.
Yeah. Well,
Like, think about the players that Brisbane have to pay over the next few years. So the Ashcroft players are both. Well, Levi's still on his draft contract. Will's into year 3. They've got Sam Marshall. They've got another top 5 pick in this year's draft. Rainer's going to have to get paid. McCluggage is on a 7-year deal.
Yep.
Logan Morris is about to explode. He's just signed a contract extension. Like, where's their money coming from?
Well, I think, to your point with Geelong, they probably have now built this amazing culture under Chris Fagan and Greg Swan and Danny Daly that they say, okay, well, you want to be part of a team that regularly contends for flags, you might all have to take a little bit less. And I love that. I think it's a great question, but they've clearly just built something.
Neil's 32. Cameron's on good money. Dunkley's on good money.
Is Lockie Neal 32?
Turns 32 this year.
That's
or has
snuck
turned
up on
32.
us, hasn't it? Is that snuck up?
Eric Hipwood
Not playing like a 32-year-old.
Eric Hipwood took tenure. The other fascinating part of all this at Brisbane as well is Brandon Starcevich is back playing and played well on the weekend.
You're obsessed with Brandon Starcevich.
He's a premiership player.
I understand it, but you talk about Brandon Starcevich a lot.
He's a free agent premiership player. This is what the show is, Sam.
I feel like
do you
every
wanna-
time I turn on the TV, Mitch is talking about Brandon Starcevich.
Do you want to talk? You just want to talk about fucking Tom DeConing every week?
I love when he swears.
He does have probably one of the most beautiful bald heads in the AFL.
Yeah,
Starcevich.
It seems
he's taken some big scalps over the journey. My point is,
Should do it to a whiteboard for the best baldies.
I like it.
he's a free agent,
That's in scales.
and if he leaves, any compo they get would be offset by bringing a Draper or a Oscar Allen in. So that's something to consider.
If Starcevich leaves and you're getting one or both of those blokes in, I think you're probably happy as a Brisbane fan, aren't you?
Yeah, but they're going to need picks for their academy guys.
Yep.
And it's harder this year to match academy picks than it has been in the past. So, yeah, just back to O'Brien, if Draper comes or if someone else arrives, what happens with the Rowan Marshall conversation? I think he's out the door. And I think the Blues will be a club that have a look at Riley O'Brien if DeConing goes to the Saints, as we expect.
Not a bad replacement if he can find some of that old school form of his.
O'Brien?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's been good this year, I thought. Hasn't been outstanding, but he's playing in a top 5 team and their midfield's performing pretty well.
Can I ask you about Darcy Cameron?
Yep.
So it's been going around that
Yeah.
he could be a replacement for DeConing,
Year to run on his contract to Collingwood.
but he wants more cash.
Yep.
Which is fair
He
enough.
feels he should be paid more from what he's because the last
pretty
contract
good.
he signed,
So what would he be on, 400 or something?
a bit more than that, I would say, but not
Mid-fives.
much. Yeah.
It's sort of amazing. Like, I'm a huge DeConing fan. Huge. If DeConing leaves and they end up spending less of their million that they were offering him on, say, Cameron at 8 or 750, it doesn't feel like the worst result for the Blues, does it?
Then you just got to convince a deal with the Pies for Cameron, though, who's contracted.
Well, see, so here's the thing with Cameron. Like, you couldn't possibly leave Collingwood for Carlton unless the money was so ridiculous.
Yeah. He'll get paid at Collingwood. I'm sure he could get more money elsewhere, but he's going to get paid.
Yeah, well, you just stay at Collingwood where you're consistently playing in front of massive crowds and in finals. Because Carlton's more of a risk, isn't it? Plus, he could be coming into an environment with a new coach, or he could be coming into an environment with a coach going to last year of his contract under pressure.
Yeah.
There's all that stuff that adds in probably to a degree.
Just one more on O'Brien. If DeConing leaves at 1.7 and the Blues were to bring in an O'Brien on 500, let's say, 400,
Yep.
there would be no offset because we're talking, if it's a $400,000 deal
Different
for
band.
O'Brien and a 1.7 for DeConing, the gap is 1.3. So it wouldn't even factor into the compo that would be offset for
Yep.
DeConing.
Yep. So they could get a first round pick for DeConing and get
Yep.
O'Brien for free.
Yep.
And use the pick somewhere else.
Yeah. Or if you could take the complete risk out of it, you do what some clubs have done, is take the free agent through to the trade period and just trade him for pick 50.
Yeah, the Ruckman merry-go-round is... I don't think Ruckman have ever been talked about as much. Before we cap off on the Ruckman conversation, are you trading Here's a multiple choice for you. At Freo. A, you trade Jackson. B, you trade Darcy. C, you keep both. What are you doing if
I'm David Walls, the list manager of Fremantle,
and Justin Longmuir?
just back to, can I query option B? Is the money completely off the books, or do you still have to pay some of it for Sean Darcy?
No, you're getting money completely off the books.
And what pick do you get back?
You're getting pick 16.
Trade him every day of the week.
Trade Darcy?
Yep.
I like Darcy.
I don't mind Darcy. He's no Luke Jackson.
You're getting lots more for Jackson, though. You're getting 2 first-rounders and a bit.
Yeah, but what about the performance? I think you get a lot more out of Jackson than you do Darcy. Darcy's body continues to let him down. Have you seen Jackson's last 6 weeks?
I know that, but there's just this sneaky suspicion that if you ended up trading Darcy and just having Jackson, I'm not sure his body holds up to play ruck 25 weeks in a row 90% of the time.
Yeah. Well, one thing's for sure, Darcy's body's not doing that right now.
No, that's true.
What would you do?
I think you've got to trade one of them. And I don't...
I think, so let's say you trade Jackson and you get 2 first-rounders. There's no world where you're finding Luke Jackson in those 2 first-round picks. I think you keep him and you take the upside in his performance.
No, that's fair. How old's Darcy?
While I search that, people will ask, Luke
Darcy
Jackson,
must be
where is
nearly
it?
30.
No. He's 27.
He's younger than I thought.
Yeah, played early. Jackson is contracted at Fremantle for a long time. If he does want to get back to Victoria, like he's hinted at, I stress, Freo have hold of the rights and they can easily keep him.
I think Geelong are still knocking.
For Jackson. So where are they fitting him in?
Do they get extra money?
Just get a Joe Cunningham. That's
Scotty,
a joke.
Scotty, that's illegal.
It is illegal. And they don't do that.
The Chris Judd Vizzy deal door has been shut well and
it
truly.
doesn't happen.
Hello to Paul Connors, who concocted that. Changed the game forever. Anything else? We done? No more bets?
Just wanted to ask Collingwood, a game clear on top of the ladder, and they've still only got 1 A grader. Are you softening on a Darcy Moore or anything like this, a Josh Dacos?
Darcy Moore was an A grader.
I think he should be on there.
Do you? It's a good thing it's not your whiteboard. Josh Dacos, no. Scott Pendlebury should be on.
Right.
But
so we've waited for the last 10, 15 minutes of the show to get
we're not adding
Sam Draper moved to Brisbane and a concession on the whiteboard. Maybe we should flip this podcast.
We don't add to the A graders mid-season. That's the rule. You can only subtract.
Rules on the run. Feels like the AFL.
Yeah, that's probably true. But when you create something, you can make the rules for it.
Okay.
I'm very happy with my A graders list. I took off Walsh. It really, really hurt me to take Walsh off. But I think everything else is correct. I know you're upset about Geelong.
I don't give a shit.
Yeah, you do. 2 profanities for Mitchell. This pod, 2. I haven't said 1.
Oh, you did one. Yeah.
Did I? Oh.
Charlie Cameron.
Charlie Cameron's in trouble.
Tex.
Tex is an A grader. Charlie Curno's in trouble.
Yeah, all right.
I just, without beating my own drum here, because I don't like to do that. Has there been a better A-grade selection than Noah Anderson?
No, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You're early on him.
He might be the best player in the
I
comp.
think he was All-Australian 40 last year.
He might be the best player in the comp.
Bontempelli did just kick 3 and 30 touches.
Sorry, let me just separate. He might be the best player in the comp, in brackets, outside of Bontempelli.
Okay.
It's unfair to compare anyone to Bontempelli, I think.
Nick Dacos just had 30 and kicked the sealer with a bloke on his tail for 120 minutes.
Okay, so let me ask you this. You're playing a game for your life tomorrow.
Nick Dacos.
You're taking Dacos over Bont?
Nah, Bont, then Dacos, ahead of Anderson.
But I agree.
You're taking Bont over Dacos, Scotty?
Yeah.
Oh, it's close. It's close. It's really, really close.
Nick Dacos was like 22.
Yeah. No, I love Bond too.
Still hasn't signed.
Yikes.
Still not to put pen to paper.
I was going to talk about this week, but I'm assured that it's happening. And it sounds like they're going to do it for his 250th, which is this week against the Swans. It sounds like they're going to make a big announcement about him re-signing to go with his 250th.
Right.
However, if we are still here in a week and he has not re-signed, I have some things to say.
Okay. Oh, gee, I won't be able to sleep.
You'll be barracking for the story.
That does us for Tradies Season 3, Episode 16. Brought to you by Tim and Carla from St Andrews Beach Brewery, the new brewery at the Melbourne Park Precinct, the only place to be before a game at the G. When are we going back for a burger and a pint?
When you're done with Wimbledon, maybe. Tell me what you know about these players.
Thought we were done.
Jasmine Paulani.
Who's that?
Paulini.
Okay.
She's number 4 in the world.
She's what? Is this a Wimbledon test?
Yeah.
Shit. Go on.
Emma Navarro.
Great player.
Where's she from?
I'm not. I haven't started my Wimbledon prep yet. Don't do that.
Anyway, I won't throw you more.
That's very unfair. That's very unfair.
When is Wimbledon?
Starts on Monday.
Big weekend then.
Big weekend of cramming
You put a boy on.
and prep. What?
You put you use your research assistant Dan helping.
Dan, actually, very good research assistant for tennis because
Sounds like it's going to be a busy weekend for Dan.
huge tennis fan and was tennis captain at school. With a wiry sort of Wayne Arthur's left-hander.
Really?
Very good tennis player.
I was Section 1 boys in the East in my heyday.
You were a tennis player?
I played tennis.
Did you?
Yep. Mullap Tennis Club.
How'd you go?
Yeah, it wasn't bad. I loved it.
You would have been a real sort of in the net volley operator.
Yeah, I
reckon.
love me volleying.
Man, you were, I could just see him. Real crafty. All right, weird way to finish the pod. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week.